before we bring him on, I want to play you guys a clip that was post Saints Bears wild card. That was the game featured on the Nickelodeon broadcast. And this is Saints head coach Sean Payton after the game celebrating with some slime.
Wild card win on Nickelodeon this thing.
Oh, I heard it.
Okay, so I don't know if you could hear earlier. He said, I'm celebrating our win on Nickelodeon," and then gets all the slime. So I would have usually asked Conor, like, which of the two head coaches, Ryan Day or Nick Saban, would you like to see do this? But it's really a dumb question because there's only one answer. Could you imagine Nick Saban doing a post-game slime situation on Nickelodeon? I want Nickelodeon broadcasting tonight's game.
The hair would be impacted.
Oh,
right?
wow, yes.
It has to be. That's the Saban hair is kind of underrated nationally, but there's nothing like seeing Saban's players try and put on a hat on him, like after a bowl game or something like that. Anything to mess up that hair with Saban is always must-see TV.
It's like Travolta in the disco movie in the late 70s. Don't touch the hair. Don't touch the hair. All right. I guess we all assume that if there was going to be a coach celebrating at the end of the game, it's going to be Saban and it's going to be Alabama because they just look that much better than everybody else, and they have throughout the entire season. They did against Notre Dame. Is there anything that you can see Ohio State can do to either slow down Alabama's offense or keep up with them offensively? Because it just doesn't seem that slowing down Alabama is that much of an option.
Yeah, I don't think that's really in the cards. Now, they could find ways to make Alabama a bit more one-dimensional than it's been in the past, which Ohio State is number 2 in the country against the run. Of course, they're also number 116 defending the pass, so you can guess what their strength is there. But Alabama's really not been in that situation before where it's seen a team that can totally take away one side of the ball. And I think that's something that Ohio State could potentially frustrate Alabama with. Now, on the other side, Ohio State has balance that Alabama has, right? They haven't seen an attack that has a downfield passing attack with Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, that also is complemented by a run game that looks like an all-world unit right now with Trey Sermon and the way that he has run the football the last, not just 2 games, but 3 games, really, if you want to go back to Michigan State. So I think that that's what Alabama is going to look at and say, we absolutely have to find a way to get some stops. Nick Saban will be the first one to admit you're not going to hold this team to under 20 points. That's not the way the game is played in 2020. But you need to find a way to get a few of those key stops. You can keep them at an arm's length and maybe win a game much like what we saw in 2015 against Clemson, where you see this incredible individual effort from a quarterback and you know that he's going to get his. But if you're still winning a national championship, you're not going to complain about any of that.
You know, one thing you pointed out in your more recent column on your final thoughts on this game that's a good thing, because we talk so much about Alabama offense, and they have 5 first-team All-Americans offensively. But then you look at maybe is the most important player for Alabama in this game Patrick Surtain?
Yeah, Patrick Surtain is a guy that I was critical of 2 years ago. I thought he got absolutely roasted by CeeDee Lamb in that Orange Bowl, and I thought he was kind of a liability out there as a true freshman. So I've kind of watched him not wanting to just opt into he has the genetics. He's going to be a future top 10 pick. And, man, he's been unbelievable. I mean, this year he has been extraordinary, with the exception of maybe that play in the ICC Championship where he got turned around and Trayvon Grimes had what was essentially a walk-in touchdown. The guy has been so good defending the deep ball, and that's what Ohio State does well. Anybody that watched that bowl game saw an Ohio State deep passing attack that can really do some big things. And Garrett Wilson is a guy who has a catch of at least 20 yards in every game that Ohio State has played this year. So Surtain has said these are finesse guys. They're not going to try and bully you in the same sort of way, but their route running is so good that if you make one misstep against them, it can be all she wrote. And that's what he has to avoid. This is the type of game where Patrick Surtain can go from an extraordinary Alabama defensive back, which we've seen throughout the Nick Saban era, to an all-time great. I think that's truly on the table for him. That's my favorite individual matchup that we're going to see tonight.
Conor OGara from Saturday Down South joining us here on Halftime. Conor, which team, Ohio State or Alabama, do you think has the most pressure on them to perform well tonight? Because I was just kind of thinking, because it seems like everybody's just saying it's Alabama, 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 and I agree it's going to be a pretty darn good matchup. But who in your mind has the most pressure? Who has the most on the line to prove tonight? What says you to that question?
I mean, I think it's Alabama because Ohio State was the team that, going into that Clemson game, really, what were the expectations for Ohio State? We saw the Buckeyes struggle against Northwestern. We saw them not look really good against Indiana and turning the ball over. And really, this was a team that was so dead set on getting over that Clemson hurdle, and a team that hadn't won a playoff game in 6 years, which was an unbelievable thing to think about when you go back to how talented that 2014 group was. Now, of course, Alabama, on the other hand, haven't won a national title in 3 years. What's wrong in Tuscaloosa? The sky is falling. I think there's always going to be that there. And I think that going 3 years without winning a national championship, as crazy as it sounds, it hasn't happened during the Nick Saban era. Think about that. I mean, they won a national title in 2009. That was year 3 of the Saban era. Then they win, that was in the beginning of a stretch where they won 3 out of 4. They don't win in 2013. They don't win in 2014. Then they get back there in 2015, right? We've never sort of seen this where if they do end up losing this game tonight, we're like, wow, Ryan Day, up-and-coming coach. Even Nick Saban can't even slow him down. Then all of a sudden we're like, yeah, Alabama's in a different part of this dynasty than what we were talking about, in the middle of the decade. So I think it is Alabama, but I don't necessarily think there's a ton of pressure to go out and prove it when both of these teams have been so good throughout this season.
Before we get your picks for tonight's game, I want to jump back to the Sean Payton and the slime. I was curious because it seems like a mixed reaction, particularly here in the office this morning, of the Nickelodeon broadcast of the Bears-Saints game. What did you think of it? For me, I think it opened up for a new audience to see, and it was just kind of cool to see a Nickelodeon style broadcast that kind of gets the kids excited for football. What did you think of the Nickelodeon broadcast?
Okay, so I am the exact wrong person that should answer this question because I am a Bears fan who doesn't have kids. That is the worst possible scenario. To watch that game, which was just awful from an offensive standpoint, and knowing that the Bears were going to get killed in that game, which of course they did, but then to have to see slime thrown on every single touchdown, it was like I was getting trolled with every single play that was happening in that game. Don't get me wrong. I took joy in the missed field goal early on where it looked like SpongeBob prevented that missed kick that the Saints had. So I'm grateful for that. But, yeah, I mean, I'm the guy that doesn't have kids yet, so I wasn't watching that game like hoping to get my 4-year-old kid interested in football. So I guess I'm the wrong person when the entire time I'm just thinking to myself, this is torture. And I can't even laugh at what's going on at Nickelodeon right now because I'm too depressed to realize that I'm 30 years old and I still haven't seen a Bears team win the Super Bowl. So I'm the wrong person to ask, I guess.
The fact that we brought up SpongeBob in the NFL is just fantastic.
But Good. That's okay because he's a Cubs fan too, and Connor was able to get in a Kyle Schwarber reference on his column comparing his return in the World Series to Jalen Waddle coming back in the championship game. Are you hearing about Schwarber signing a free agent contract with the Nationals, and should you really care all that much about somebody that hits under 200 anyway?
I'm deeply, deeply disappointed. Look, I'm an Indiana grad. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan. That is Kyle Schwarber. I saw him play in the College World Series in Nebraska. I have been Schwarber since day one. So, yeah, my heart is broken. Now, for those who are watching the national championship, Schwarber, I think, could have some relevance in a weird way because I feel like Jalen Waddle is about to do something that 2016 Kyle Schwarber did in the World Series. Jalen Waddle, the guy who was supposed to be out for the year, season-ending injury that nobody expects him to be able to come back from. And then you just kind of hear those whispers. He's working his way back. Oh, he's medically cleared to do this. He's medically cleared to do that. Are we about to see a performance from Jalen Waddle tonight that might not be, 150 yards, 3 touchdowns or anything like that? He might not show off that breakaway speed. But are we about to see him do his version of hitting 412 in the World Series and provide that big emotional lift that really fuels Alabama and allows them to do some different things? And you look back on this performance and you say, wow, I can't believe this kid just pulled that off given the time frame of that ankle injury and what he was able to do. So in other words, if Kyle Schwarber gets a reference in the broadcast tonight, I'm going to be the happiest guy in the room.
I love it. Connor, before we let you go, I want to get your picks for tonight's game. And also coming up on our show later, we're going to do our prop bets for the game. This is our final day to make picks. So I'm not going to ask you. We haven't
even gotten into this. This is like the biggest show in our
really
partnership's history today.
Just to let you know, so we have punishments for our picks. So Matty T, our producer, if he loses, he has to watch a whole weekend of NFL football, which if you knew Matty T, you would understand that that's punishment for him. If I lose, I have to watch The Exorcist and live stream my facial reactions. And if Phil loses, he has to refer to foul lines and foul poles during Arkansas baseball season.
That's because I don't believe they should be called foul lines and foul poles, because when the ball hits them, they're fair. I don't think you knew that.
Agreed.
So I'm not going to ask you all our prop bets, but I just wanted to jump in, kind of see what you thought of our picks and kind of get your thoughts on what's coming up to the game. So first thing that comes to your mind, which team will be leading at halftime?
Alabama is going to be leading at halftime, and I think Alabama should be able to lead the whole game and keep Ohio State at an arm's length.
Okay. According to oddsharks.com, the over-under for total touchdowns for Devontae Smith is 1.5. You going over 1.5 or under?
Over all day.
I was going to say 8 of 12 games, Devontae Smith has scored 2 or more touchdowns all year. Over under 290.5 passing yards for Justin Fields.
Over, especially if Ohio State is trailing all game. Definitely over.
All right, last one, and it's the easiest one. Who's going to be the national champion?
Alabama's going to be the national championship. It's going to be the national champion, and Nick Saban's going to pass Bear Bryant for rings.
I like it. I like it.
Last prop bet is Cincinnati. Would Cincinnati have tried to claim a national championship if they'd have won the Peach Bowl?
I think Luke Fickell is wired a little bit differently than the folks at UCF. I do. I think he respects the hierarchy to a certain extent, but man, you would have seen some. You would have seen some random poll come out, and that's what all it takes. And that's what UCF did. That's why they were able to do the national championship claiming thing. You would have seen that happen with Cincinnati, but I don't think Luke Fickell would have banged the drum quite like UCF did a few years ago.
Always appreciate you, Connor. Thanks so much. And great getting in the Schwarber reference, too. Enjoy the game, and we'll talk about it next week.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Connor.
You got it. That's Conor OGara joining us every Monday from Saturday Down South. And don't forget about the Fence Man. If you own a business that needs more security and more curb appeal, the number at the Fence Man, 479-782-3936. Give him a call. Fence Man will be there just like that for a no obligations quote. And nobody does it any better than the Fence Man. Things like gates, controlled access card readers, and other custom installations. The Fence Man's been on top of that for 40 years. That's 479-782-3936. Fence Man is a division of Quantum Property Services. And one more number to get you for a final segment of the first hour on halftime, 877-377-6963. Your thoughts on the national championship game. Get with us.